Hello, I'm Nathan Leahy, and welcome to Next Week in Gaming. Our first release is by developers NoClip, and this one's coming out sometime in spring, and it's Zombie Night Terror, which is probably one of the first games actually that has taken the Lemmings approach and sort of drafted it into this new sort of game style. Because to be honest, I don't think I've seen a Lemmings-like game in probably about a decade, basically. And this one puts a little bit of a zombie twist on the otherwise pretty good formula, and sort of adds a lot of its own little aspects to the game. So the whole purpose of this is you sort of infect a host, and then you go through the game directing zombies towards humans and making it to the end, hopefully with some of your infected hosts alive. Obviously, this game is going to bring in a lot of little bits of puzzle aspects. So aside from just making your way through a level, as did Lemmings, and preventing your little whatever they were called from dying and giving them umbrellas or whatever, in this game you're sort of morphing your zombies into various different creatures, making them sort of make your other zombies go in different directions, leaping over cliffs, but also the humans that you're going to be attempting to infect, or at the very least get past, will present a few different challenges, like quite beefy enemies with guns, and just sort of a whole host of different little puzzles for you to jump onto. So it's actually pretty cool to see someone take the Lemmings approach and change it up a bit. Releasing on Tuesday the 17th of May as a game by Dambuster Studios. This is the sort of big AAA release of the week, and this is Homefront The Revolution, which is sort of a sequel to a fair host of decent FPS games, which for the most part they just sort of... They were average, they were okay, they were a little bit sort of in that era of generic shooters, except this one's going to take a little bit of a different approach to the Homefront sort of story arc thing. And this is focused on the revolution, so you as a very small group of revolutionaries will be sort of taking more of a guerrilla warfare ambush approach to combat, and this one goes for a more open worldy feel. So instead of being that sort of on-rail storyline that you progress through, despite having wonderful environments like in the previous one, this one will be much more open world, and you'll get to choose where you're going and sort of strategize along those lines. But at the same time, it does look quite familiar to those sort of modern FPS shooters set in sort of near future, I guess, with some of those sci-fi weapons and stuff like that. So for the most part, it looks like it could probably be a reasonably decent title. We haven't seen a properly good, like, old-fashioned FPS generic game in a while. Hopefully this one will actually add something a little bit different. It felt like some of the previous games, yeah, they were cool and they were quite sort of very AAA wow. But you know, the on-rails thing was something that was holding a lot of modern FPS games back. So hopefully this one will kind of deal with that nicely. Also releasing on Tuesday the 17th of May is another game that's sort of taking that episodic approach, and this is called The Song of Seven. Episode 1 is releasing next week, and it's by developers Enlightened Games. And this is sort of like a point-and-click third-person adventure title, so it's not necessarily a dungeon crawler or a loot-em-up or anything like that, but much more story-orientated. And you sort of progress through the game through varying puzzles. The story in the beginning does take a very large page out of the original book of The Hobbit, but for the most part it changes quite nicely from there. It does have a similar art style to a game we reviewed recently called Stories, The Path of Destinies, that sort of lo-fi Torchlight 2 sort of look. But this is a puzzler. It's all about the stories and the dialogue and the interaction. And I guess it's kind of going after the hearts of those people that quite like King's Quest and games like that. Very much very story orientated, like A Tale of Two Sons, but built around puzzles in conversation and sort of playing notes on guitars and stuff like that. So it's got to do a decent job of trying to knock King's Quest off of that podium. But you know, I think it could be a reasonably average title, and we'll just have to see how episode 1 turns out. Releasing on Thursday the 19th of May is a game I've been looking forward to for a very, very, very long time, and that is Space Pirates and Zombies 2. This is coming into early access, again published and developed by MinMax Studios. And this is a game that, like, if you haven't played Space Pirates and Zombies 1, you definitely should pick it up and give it a go. And it just sort of builds on that really awesome gameplay element where you play this mothership, the whole galaxy is randomly generated, and it's all persistent. You are a captain of a mothership, there are 200 other captains in the universe, and they can do everything you can do, which involves destroying other ships, grabbing random parts, slapping them on your ship, and designing and building it however you like to a very near infinite degree. And of course all those enemies can do that, all those enemy captains, so you'll very often come up against some of their exceedingly large mothership ships. And it's quite heavily built sort of around that aspect of creating your ship from all these random hodgepodge parts. And so if you make your ship really long, it'll turn slowly, and if you put tons of engines on it, then your weapons won't get as much power. It's just a really, really solid concept. My only Sad part is that it's in early access and not coming out as a full game. But for the most part, I am just disappointed I won't be reviewing it. But I'll probably pick it up when it fully releases, which hopefully won't be too far away. Finally, onto our review for next week, which will be published on Thursday the 19th of May, is Chadwin, which is a game I've been reasonably looking forward to. It's by Frozen Byte, and the last game we reviewed by them was Trine 3, which was one of those odd games which basically just sort of got to a stage and said, hey, we ran out of money, end of game here. So I'm hoping that this doesn't sort of follow that sort of suit. It would be nice to have a relatively complete story, but it does look pretty cool, and we've had lots of gameplay trainers to mess around with. And basically you're playing Chadwin and you're helping this young girl, Lily, make it through these different places. And it is open worldy, although I'm a little bit confused as to how the open world aspect works with sort of helping this young girl make it through these little areas, adding like a little time-based challenge to all these aspects. But the cool part is it does obviously pick up a lot of those physics aspects from Trine when it comes to the main gameplay. It is 3D, so it'll be the second time Frozen Byte have done a proper 3D movement game, and you know it borrows a lot of things. The art style looks quite similar, and luckily it's not all about stealth. You do get to do some stabby action as well. So yeah, I'm hoping this one turns out quite nicely. I'm quite looking forward to this one, and I'm hoping they've learnt from their Trine 3 days, basically. If not, then it could be a little bit of a disappointment, but we're keeping positive here. It could be pretty good. So that is it from us at NextPowerUp. Join us next week on Thursday for our weekly review of Chadwin, and of course next week on Saturday for our next Week in Gaming episode. Last night was unfortunately not an F&M night because I'm getting tons of stuff done before the whole June summer crazy stuff starts. So I missed Modern, which kind of sucks. For the most part, I will be diving into World of Warcraft starting from June in preparation for the incoming Legion expansion, and it'll be the first time I actually play an expansion class. I'll be playing the Demon Hunter and hopefully enjoying that, but I'll be taking more of a PvP approach to the game because I just can't bother with any of that PvE stuff. So as usual, leave your comments in the section below for what you guys have been playing. Hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys next week.